Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in here today with us here on our Bright Talk channel. My name is Megan Bizzuto. I'm the president here of IAW, and I'm going to be moderating this panel conversation today. If you're new to the platform, new to our organization, very warm welcome. We're so happy to have you here. We'll be following up with more information about all of us, about this topic, about IAW. But I always like to kick these off with a quick little overview of how to maximize your time here as a viewer. I know everyone's schedules are tight, right? We run back to back to back, and then we try to fit so much in. We really try to maximize the value you get out of these conversations. We keep the conversations very authentic, very, very dialogue focused. And so hopefully that helps you walk away today feeling empowered, supported, more knowledgeable. If you're joining us live, I love to point out that there is a box right below me on the screen that says questions. That is your opportunity to engage with us while we're live here today. I will ask you to put questions in that box at any point in time, but also sometimes we might ask the audience questions, or we might have things that you want to just share something about. There's no interactive chat. You can use that questions box to share information with us on the back end as well. We are recording this conversation. You'll automatically get a link to watch the replay. You'll get any resources we talk about. You'll get links of where to find our panelists. With that, super excited to dive into our conversation today. We're talking about empowering change through nonprofit involvement. And I have two fantastic panelists joining me today that have some really great stories to tell and some great opportunities to answer some questions around how to identify causes, how to be an effective volunteer, nonprofit leadership, because I know we get a lot of questions about that, how to raise awareness, and just some general insights and advice around the world of nonprofit and community service and giving back. So with that, Dr. Sanja Rickette Stinson is joining us. Dr. Sanja, welcome. I would love if you would kick us off with a brief introduction and tell us more about your nonprofit work.
Well, I'm Dr. Sanja Rickette Stinson. I'm in Chicago. I am the founding CEO of Matthew House Chicago, where we are celebrating 34 years. I'm also the president of Empower Her, where I empower women and striving them over the age of 50 to recognize their full potential. Matthew House is a daytime supported service center for individuals who are homeless, and we are one of the largest and one of the only ones in the city of Chicago serving a population of men, women, children, and family who are experiencing homelessness. 98% of those individuals are African American men, women, and families with children. I have been in a nonprofit and found myself in a nonprofit after going through school, struggling with a speech impediment and some disability challenges, boggling several careers, meeting a nurse at DePaul University who literally said to me, "We need you on the board of directors." And from there, I learned all about nonprofits, watching my parents really earlier just give to the homeless and feed the homeless and their establishments. I believe was the root of it. But when you get to your careers, you want to move away from your parents. But I came right back to it, and here I am 30 something years later, over 3 decades doing nonprofit, and it is rewarding, impactful, and I just love it.
That is amazing. That is a lifelong dedication. And I love hearing about the work you're doing and seeing all of the incredible things you're doing. We also have joining us today, Dr. Don Witte. Don, welcome. I'd love if you could share a quick introduction about yourself and also your involvement through nonprofits as well.
Thank you again for having me. My name is Dawn Earhart Witte. I live in Los Angeles. I am the founder of the Desire to Inspire Foundation, and I started this about 8 years ago. And the reason I started it was because, when we turn on the news, we see negative story after negative story. And I knew and know so many people that are doing amazing work, whether it's volunteering for people in hospitals or feeding children or rescuing animals. And I wanted to share those stories. And then I took my first trip to Africa, and I met the most inspiring people who, despite all odds, were 67 children and things like that. And I thought, I want to help them, but I want to share their stories to inspire people here so that we all know that we can be the change we wish to see in the world. So I'm grateful that I get to do it.
Love that. And you and I have talked before about that first trip you took, right? And the impact it had on you and what you've grown since then. It's a great story. And you have so many great insights and information for people that want to do the same. So we have questions to run through today. As I like to tell the audience, I always come prepared with my questions, but often when we have a live audience, your questions are way better than mine. So as you're listening, if you go, wait, how do I do that? Or I want more information, or what about this? To pop it in the questions box at any time. I love seeing our audience questions. It helps give us more insight into how to better support you and make sure that you're getting the most out of this time together. And so don't be shy. Questions are very much welcomed. And we'll tackle those as they come in. But to start, I'm going to start with my questions. And so I think when I think about nonprofit involvement, I think a lot of times people struggle with where do I spend my time, right? And so I think we see people get more involved when they attach to something they're truly passionate about, right? Something that impacts their life or has impacted them in the past. Can you talk a little bit about you both kind of alluded to this during your introductions, but how did you really discover that passion? And then what advice do you have for someone who's trying to find an organization that aligns with their values and interests to volunteer and to support? Either one of you can jump in and go first, or I can pick and choose. Either way, if anyone has input, go ahead. If not, Dawn, I'll start with you.
Oh, well, thank you. I do a lot of speaking and writing about finding your purpose. And what I've come to believe, and this is my own belief, but I think we all have the same purpose, and the same purpose to be of service. How we use those gifts, skills, and talents that we've been given is our journey to find, right? What are those things that light our soul on fire, and what are we really good at? So I always start there. I always had this passion to go to Africa. When I was a little girl, I wanted to go. And I don't know where it came from, but because I was raised in the society that we're raised in, and I was taught, and I believed that you're supposed to go to school, and after you finish high school, then you go to college, and there's X, Y, and Z way to do your life. And so going into the Peace Corps, going to Africa when I was 17, 18 wasn't a viable option in my mind. And I look back on my life and I'm like, I understand why I didn't go then, because I was supposed to marry the person I married and have my children and do all of those experiences. But when I say look at your life, look at the things that call to your soul, things that you're excited about, you're passionate about. Those are the things that will direct you to the service that lights your heart on fire.
I love that. Such a great way to line that up. Sanja, anything you'd add there?
Well, I would add, I love that. But yes, I think finding your passion, we all have a passion. We all have a purpose. We all need to find our passion. I think one of the other things that I would add to that is that when you are looking to connect with a nonprofit, you want to align it with maybe the career choices that you are looking at. Also, one of the things that I learned in nonprofit is through volunteering. And so you want to have a deep personal experience. Then one of the first things that I would say is that looking at volunteering at an organization or somewhere where you are that you have passionate for. It may be women and children, or in the hospital, or with cancer research, whatever you have a passion for. And one of the other things that I would say is a lot of times our passions are sometimes driven by experiences that we've had, or someone in our life, someone that has had a traumatic experience, and we have digged a little bit deeper into it. And now we want to be of help, and we want to impact the change. We want to be the change that we want to see. So I agree with Don. Everyone has a passion. It is finding that passion and aligning it with the purpose that you want to make the impact in your life and leave that legacy.
Absolutely. Both of you said that so well. I want to take a step back for a moment, because one of the things that we didn't talk about is the reasons that we we support nonprofits, right? The reasons we find things to become involved in, and the benefits we get from giving back, because often if you align with something that personally motivates you, there's a feeling of just community support that happens. There's a feeling of personal satisfaction. There's that in my mind, it's like the everything's bigger than just ourselves, right? And even if you're volunteering 1 hour a month, you're still impacting something, right?
Yeah.
And so that mindset of I just don't have enough time, or I can't find the right thing, or it doesn't matter. From your perspective, what are the benefits, the personal benefits that are found through finding something that supports you and your vision and aligns with your values and purpose? What does somebody get out of it? Sanja, I'll start there with you.
Well, like Don, I have been to Africa several times, and that sort of also fueled the passion that I have to come back home and make a real difference in the lives of those that were here in the States, and also in the lives of those in Africa, where I went, like I said, 4 times. So I think that one of the things that I would say for anyone that wants to empower themselves or get involved in nonprofits is that the first step is to get involved. Okay, make time to get involved. There's 24 hours in a day, and if we want to find our purpose and we have this desire to get involved in nonprofits, then you need to make the time to really find the place that you want to get involved and take those steps by contacting. I always tell individuals to research the organization, and maybe talk to someone else that volunteered. For me, I was someone that introduced me to my first volunteer opportunity, even though I had seen it, experienced in my young life. But then the opportunity came, and that's when I really knew that my purpose was going to be in the nonprofit industry.
Mm-hmm. Don, it looked like you were going to say something before when Sanja started, in terms of the reasons for why do this, right? Why find the time? Why carve out that space? What are the benefits?
Oh, see, I might cry. I'm just going to warn you. When I was 10 years old, my appendix ruptured, and I was in the hospital for it seemed like forever because I was 10, right? I think it was maybe 7 days, maybe 10 days, but I was in for a while. And I remember there was this nursing assistant. Her name was Debbie. And the hospital food was terrible. I'm a 10-year-old, my parents weren't there the whole time because they had other kids. And one day Debbie, and she was a nurse's candy striper. So she was a volunteer. She went and bought me pizza, and she came and had pizza with me. And that stayed with me forever, because I was like, I don't even know how I could ever find her again or thank her. But that made such a difference in my life. And I think at that age of 10, I always wanted to be able to make a difference in other people's lives. Mm-hmm. So, the feedback I get from the children, and now I've got goosebumps, and here's the tears.
I have goosebumps. I just looked down because now I have goosebumps.
Yeah, the children that I work with, the messages I get from them. The last time I went to Africa, I walked into one of the houses that I'd never been in physically. My picture was on their wall. I'd never met them in person before. Mm-hmm. So one of the people where we drilled a borehole in Ghana said, thank you. I will get to taste clean water before I die. Just having one of those experiences, knowing that you're making that kind of a tremendous impact. I look at Debbie in my life, and I know that even though that was that one moment, she changed my life. And I know that I'm doing that for other people. And that's why I do what I do.
Right. So something as simple as bringing you pizza, right? We can all be that Debbie. We can all do the pizza delivery. The one thing, this is where when you understand what somebody needs, it's easy to take that step and add that value to somebody else's life. And when you realize that your impact can grow, it's just a special thing.
And I agree with her 100%. I mean, even in the work that I do, just that one person that you impact, given that one person, and then that one person come back and say thank you. Or I think of the mental illness that we experience in the work that I do, but knowing how to reach them. And sometimes it is difficult. Sometimes it takes time and understanding their humanity. That's the one thing that I really teach, is that we first must see the individual's humanity. They are individuals. So treat them like individuals, seeing their humanity, understanding that they didn't grow up wanting to be in this position. So when we can really see their humanity, when we can really reach them, see who they are, and help them to be more and better than what they are, lead them, help them, give them, like Dawn said, pizza, or as simple as a pack of cigarettes. I don't smoke, but a pack of cigarettes make a difference to someone who then they will say that I know that you care.
You see them, right? They feel seen, they feel supported, they feel it forms that bond of, even though we're not following the same path, I still see you and I respect you and I'm here to support you. Right.
I don't see you as I don't see you as your condition. I see you as an individual.
Well, and I can imagine in the work that you do, that's incredibly important, right? Because when you have people who are homeless or are at difficult points in their life, they often do get judged, right? They must get a lot of opinions about them, and they didn't choose that life, but they have to feel connected to you in order to receive the help to move forward.
Very important. Seeing the humanity, not being judgmental, not shying away from when they say, "Well, can I talk to you?" Getting them to trust you,
Right.
to trust that you do care, trust seeing who they are. Again, I can't emphasize enough, and I know Don will probably say this even in Africa, but even here, when we get to see the individual who they are, their humanity matters.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So when we talk about involvement with nonprofits, I tend to break this down with the volunteering of time, the donating of money or resources, or advocacy. When somebody's assessing their type of involvement, how do you recommend somebody goes about that to determine, hey, what am I best suited for at this point in time? From the giving my time, donating some resources, or kind of serving from an advocacy position. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I do.
Go ahead, Don.
I have a lot of things, callings that like speak to my heart. Like, I love animals. I can't do animal rescue because I would have 100 dogs in my house, and people that know me know that is true. So, but I can support them with my money, and I have rescued, a bunch of dogs. So I've done that too, but I know that I can't physically go to the pet adoption things. I can't physically go to the pound because for me, it just doesn't work. But my heart for animals is, extraordinary. So like that tells me in that arena, my money, my resources might be the best way I can be of service there. Yeah. And, in the Africa thing, I mean, again, I think because I was a child once and I had an adult see me and show up for me, I want to be that adult in children's lives because I know what an impact that makes. So that's what I put my time, resources, energy, effort, all of that into. So, again, that gives me so much fulfillment and purpose in my own life. So again, animals can help with resources. People, I will help with my time and energy and effort.
Yeah, I love that. And it's funny because with animals, I have one dog, but I have children with allergies. And so it's very hard for us to bring dogs into the house. So I volunteer, I spend time at the shelter because then I get my dog fix. And once my kids are older, it might be an issue because I'll have all the dogs in the house. But right now, I can't. One of my kids gets really sick with certain breeds, and it's too hard. But I love that example of something you really care about, but that serving with resources is better than serving with your time. Sanja, any other thoughts on the?
I have a lot of kindred, so we're definitely going to be connected because I love animals too, and mine is more cats. And if I was going to go to the shelter, I would have a house full of cats. They would call me the cat lady because I love cats. I only have one cat right now, but I do volunteer. And so, as Don said, advocacy could be seen in so many ways. Resources, your money, speaking up. Speaking up is very important about a cause that's close to your heart. Getting involved in movements and advocacy movements. Also, informing your communities, your neighbors about what's some of the issues that are going on and how they can get involved. So it's each one reach one. So while we are involved, we also have to be informative to those individuals that are in our tribe or in our circles to say, many will say, why do you do this? That's the openness to say, here's why I do it. And here's how you can get involved and advocate. Maybe you don't have the time, but do you have some resources? Can you collect some clothes, or can you help with sending me with resources of sending shoes, or helping me build a well in Ghana? Those are resources that you can be advocates for and make an impact right there.
Yeah, I love those examples. I think it's that involving your community, right?
Mm-hmm.
Having it be known, this is what I'm doing, and you don't have to donate as much money as me or a resource as me. You don't have to spend as much time with me, but this one small thing, like, are you cleaning out your closet? Let's take those clothes and donate them here, right? I know that they'll be put to use. And so I want to kind of pivot and talk about maximizing impact, because I think a lot of people, they hesitate to get involved because they think, I don't have enough to give, right? It's, how do I make sure that I'm aligning with something where I can truly be impactful, and not like, in my mind, even small amounts add up to big amounts, right? So it's not necessarily, oh, you don't have enough to give. You have to be really mindful and intentional about the time you give. What are your thoughts on how to maximize impact and know that your small contribution is having that ripple effect of having a larger impact on the organization or the people being supported?
I think that you need to understand that everyone has a story, and your involvement in the nonprofit that you involve has touched you in many ways. As I hear Dawn, she said at 8 years old, that there are others, and your story matters. Your story and telling your story might touch the life of that individual that you are trying to maximize impact. And once they hear your story, they say, oh, I have a similar story and I can relate to that. And then you can tell them, well, here's how you can get involved in the nonprofit and some of the issues that are close to my heart. And you're able to hear that individual's heart. And so you get to know what their stories are. For us, life is always lifing, and there are always conditions and issues that we all face at one time. And so I think some maximizing our impact is never forgetting to tell our story, never forgetting to be willing to share our story whenever we're asked to.
Absolutely. And you just touched on the life is always lifing, right? There's always challenges that come up. There's always things going on. And one of the things that I have found, some of those communities where I have volunteered and given time or resource to, when I'm going through challenging times, connected to the organization or not, those are the people who are in my circle, right? Those are the people I have formed relationships with, that it goes beyond just volunteering together. It's now, hey, I need help with something. Could you help me? Right. And so those relationships, although they might not start out from I'll say networking perspective, you grow those. So when life is lifing, you have people who align with your values, they understand you, and they're there in times of need. Dawn, anything else you'd add on maximizing your impact and how you can really make sure that you're meeting the needs of the organization, but with whatever you can give, you're having a maximum impact?
I think the thing that came to me when you asked the question was, like, I personally like to find grassroots organizations, like the people who you just know they're doing it. This is costing them money to do it, because you know that money is going to where it is supposed to be going to. The big, huge, and I'm not saying not to donate to the big, huge organizations, but you don't really know where your money's going. My nonprofit, like, I will spend money. If you donate $1, I will spend money to send that $1, instead of saying, okay, I'll only send 92 cents because they take, 8 cents away, because I know what that $1 means to those children. So I say, find the people who are doing it from a passion in their heart. You see the work, the examples of the work that they have done, so that your money is being put to the best use possible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So in terms of utilizing our skills and experience, do you have suggestions on how people can leverage their professional skills and expertise in their volunteer work? Like, I think sometimes people get stuck with well, I'm an accountant. How good am I going to be to an organization, right? And from my perspective, it doesn't always have to be your professional skills. There's other things that you can do to support, but it's also, I found I have website development skills, and I've worked for many nonprofits who are like, yeah, you do that, go do that, we need that, right? And so how do you suggest people leverage those skills? Do they need to leverage their professional skills, or do you see this as opportunity to learn new skills?
I think it's both.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I know me being in the nonprofit space, I am not great with numbers. Like, so when I have somebody come in and help me with the accounting and things, it is a blessing. Like you had said, web skills, like we need an online presence, we need social media. So any of those skills, if those are your professional skills, but if it's more of a like, they want to get away from their job and do something that's just heartfelt and like on the ground, then do that. Like, again, what calls to your heart, what their needs are, and how do you put those two things together in a perfect puzzle piece?
Yeah. Sanja,
I agree 100%. I think that a lot of individuals are seeking ways, hard ways. Nonprofit is a hard issue for many individuals. And so, seeking organizations that align with your heart, your passion. And as Dawn said, I mean, using those skills outside of your immediate career for digital marketing. We all need a presence on social media. And when you're working in a nonprofit, and Don can witness to this, you just not enough time in the day to keep posting about the successes and the stories that you tell. And so when you have someone that has those skills and you can pass it on to, those are things that you can use your expertise in that, cooking, or providing, if you have a part of a sorority or somewhere where they can collect shoes or help with the wood. So those are things that when you talk about skills and expertise, event planning, I mean, I'm not good at event planning. I mean, that's not one of I will do it, but I'm not good at it. And so passing it off to someone, grant writing, I'm good at that, but is my time best spent there? So you need those writers. And one of the things that I think that we often miss in this is administrative support. A lot of nonprofits, and Don can witness this, we need a lot of administrative support, especially if you're doing digital marketing, if you're mailing, you need that administrative support to help you get those letters out, keep up with the trends that's going on in the nonprofit social media world.
Right. So in terms of skills, are there any specific skills that you think are most in demand by nonprofits?
Accounting, as Donna says, bankers, attorneys, because there's always the laws of nonprofits are always changing. And of course, right now, as we are in this AI world, this digital marketing world, there are some expertise out there. AI has blown up, although I think it's been here a long time, but, connecting with an AI specialist, connecting with the nonprofit and training and teaching us how AI can enhance what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So very similar to business world, right? Corporate world. And with that, I think putting that call out to anyone listening, right? Your skills can be transferred to the world of nonprofit. Give what you can. The impact will be amazing. But don't rule yourself out because you think your skills don't matter. Because nonprofits run just like businesses do. They need all those skills on the back end as well.
The only thing when I do the coaching is I tell individuals when they say, what is the difference between a nonprofit and a profit? I said there are many differences, but the main difference is our tax the way we're taxed. But we still have to run our organizations and our business, our nonprofits as business. We still have that responsibility. So the main big difference is our tax difference, our tax status, as I call it.
I tend to talk a lot with my hands. And you got a thumbs up for that. That was not my intention, but little bubble on the screen. And I think that's a good point you bring up there, that when you're registered as a nonprofit, there's a lot of paperwork there, right? It's not it's not just a stamp. You have to actually submit records and show the status of your nonprofit on an ongoing basis. And it's not the simplest of tasks. And we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. But I first want to talk about leadership in nonprofits, because many nonprofits run with boards, right? Where they might have a board of a few or a board of many. Can you talk about some of the common leadership roles from nonprofit organizations? You can talk about yours specifically if that's helpful, and the difference between volunteering as a resource versus that step to leadership, and when somebody might be ready to take that step.
Well, Don, I'll start, because we started a nonprofit board. We started with, oftentimes when nonprofits start, you start with family and friends who often have the passion and have the mission, but do not have the resources. And so we started with, of course, family and friends, but eventually we had to move to a more board members that could bring the resources that we need. So one of the things that I think in the challenge of a nonprofit, if you're looking to start one or sustain one, is that you always want to have those friends and loved ones that want to be supported. But eventually you have to move to a board that can bring the resources. And so all boards, most boards, so I said all boards, are volunteer boards. And so they volunteer their time. Many of them have careers outside of what your board duties are. So when you're looking to build a board, look at those niches that need to be filled within your board, such as attorneys, accountants. Don, I'm like you. I am not good with numbers. And so I'm always having someone there to offset that, because that's one of the biggest areas that nonprofits get in trouble. We have to do our audits. We have to balance our books. We have to manage those grants and those foundations in a way, if they're restricted or non-restricted. We can't just say, I got a big grant so I can do what I want to. So that's why you have your specialists, your CPAs on your board and your staff. Your board members are looking at, are we spending the grants? Are we meeting the guidelines of what the grant was given for? So you want someone that's financially astute on your board to look at those financial records and holding your CEOs, or executive directors accountable to make sure that it is, because board members are also subject to various laws as you sign up for a board.
Absolutely. Don, anything you'd add there?
That was such an amazing answer that I forgot what the question was.
It was around the leadership board. And I guess from your perspective, when somebody's ready to take a leadership role with a board, right? What's it look like, that path from volunteering or being an advocate to stepping into leadership?
You know, I've been a volunteer my entire adult life. I started when I was 14. I was a candy striper. So volunteerism is like a part of, I was PTA president. I did fundraisers. Then when my girls were in college, I then said, you know what, there are some things that I want to do in this world. And you have to be a little bit delusional, a little bit delulu, and a little crazy to believe that you can do it. And we were talking about earlier about seeing people. I love when you're talking about that, because I just wrote an article a few months ago about leadership, whether it's in the nonprofit space or the for-profit space. But Saluna is one of my words, and that means I see you, I value you, you are important to me. When we understand that in a leadership position, that is paramount. Having a big, bold vision, and having your board members or the people that want to support you, like, understand that vision and that mission, and then understanding that we're all connected and treating everybody with respect and dignity. I think those are like three, really powerful things in leadership. And, your board and your volunteers should all, not fall in line, but have that same passion for that same vision that you do.
Yeah. What are some of the biggest challenges you have faced as a leader in nonprofit?
The needs far surpass the resources. I get calls from people or messages from people in Bangladesh and India and Pakistan and all over the world. I've never been to those places. And they're telling me they're very sad stories that are happening in their lives. And I wish I could help every single one of them. So that's my biggest challenge.
I think my biggest challenge has been gender biases in the nonprofit. We face that as women, we face it. As Black women, we face it. I think
Yep.
some of the other challenges that I face is securing consistent funding for the causes that we believe in. And as
Right.
Don says, we can't help everyone, although our heart is there. We want to help everyone. And I don't know about her, but I really feel bad when I can't help everyone. And so I have to be able to draw the line as to stand and being committed to the mission of the
Right.
organization, making sure that my funding is diverse, and making sure that, as Don says, that from the board to the staff to building a team, that they understand the mission and really understanding the humanity and seeing, I forget the word that she said, she has to teach me that word, the understanding that these are people in every service industry, no matter what your nonprofit mission is, it is about service. And so when you're looking for board members and staff members, they have to understand you have to have a heart of service, because every day is not going to be peachy cream.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I do want to move into talking a little bit about the creation of a nonprofit and what that looks like. But there's a question here in the chat. And it says, what is dear to my heart are homeless women, particularly with children who have been affected by domestic violence. I have started a nonprofit business plan, but I have not had the money or the time to work on it more because of my health and wellness business and working full time. I have been donating with products and some financial services. Do you think it would be a good idea to volunteer at a shelter, call center, or try to get on a board for one of the nonprofits to learn the ropes?
My answer is absolutely yes.
Me too.
That is the first way you start. You learn about the ins and outs of nonprofit. As I said, when I started, I served on the board for 7 or 8 years. I was an entrepreneur before then, had buggled a lot of careers. But when I made a decision to get on that board, it taught me so much. And then be committed and ask for increased responsibilities, so that when you start your nonprofits, that you'll be able to take those lessons learned and also be a good journal. So make sure you take a lot of notes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Don,
know
what you got there?
Oh, I 100% agree by, going, and you might find out that you want to stay in that volunteer position in somebody else's organization, because your own organization takes up a lot of resources, time, bookkeeping, filing, all these things. So you might be able to do the work you want to do without all of the other stuff. So
Right.
try it and see.
I think that try it and see approach is fantastic, because then you have the heart for it, right? That when you're working with homeless women impacted by domestic violence, young children, that can be challenging, right? There's a lot of heart that goes into supporting these people, and that can be hard. And so show up and start before you branch off and do all the work of running your own, because then you learn so much, right? You feel really attached to it, and who knows, maybe you stay there, maybe you just grow somebody else's nonprofit.
Well, maybe you become a staff member or an increment part of that nonprofit, especially domestic violence with children. And then you learn from that, and then you can, branch off. Well, I would say that individuals think that there's a whole lot of money out here for the nonprofit, but we are all searching in the same pot. Okay. And so we have to make sure that is a niche that needs to be filled within the community that we live in. So also niche it. I said you have to be sure that it's a niche that needs to be filled. And so in order to do that, you need to get involved in nonprofits that are doing what your passion is calling you to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So in terms of finding advocates and raising awareness of your cause, what strategies have you found most effective for advocating for your cause and raising awareness within your community or larger communities?
This is a perfect example for me, doing podcasts, doing Q&As, doing articles, doing things like that, like to talk about the needs I've had people say, you know what, I've always heard about Africa. And when you talk about it, give me a different vision and a different way of thinking about Africa. And that's what I want to do. So I think this is the best way to raise the awareness, is coming on, talking about it, writing about it, and sharing your stories with others.
I have to say, so Dawn, you and I have spoken in the past, and you triggered something in my mind that I never would have thought of before. I love to travel, right? I've lived all over the world. I've seen many, many places. I recently got divorced. So now when I look at traveling, I'm traveling alone. But talking to you inspired this thought of, well, I could do some sort of mission trip where I'm with a group, and then I get to explore and fulfill that travel bug. But I'm not alone, right? And I'm giving back to something. So you like, that was through, I think, a podcast we did maybe, or an Ask the Expert. But like, you're right. So in so many ways, showing up as a thought leader and sharing your own story and your own perspective helps that awareness piece, right? And helps people tap into, hey, how can I support? Sanja, any other?
No, I think Don is right. I mean, we when you feel like you're alone, but when you go to Ghana, I've always went to Ghana with a travel group, or a group of students. And I think one of the other things is we talk about telling our story. And one of the other things that I have learned to do, even as I struggle with writing throughout my education, not just throughout, is to write. I am finishing up a book on how we have harmony in self-care with nonprofit leaders and beyond, and how we have to empower having individuals who are looking to start nonprofits. So I think also writing about it in this, Don, I don't do as many podcasts, Don, but I'm sure after meeting you, we will be connected.
Yeah, you both have such great stories and great presence, and to be able to use your voice to help raise awareness, I think, is super important. Do you have other ways that you've engaged the community and encouraged others to get involved with your cause?
Well, for me, is to get involved in the community organizations, other community organizations, your local continuum of cares, your local government, those organizations that are talking about nonprofits who are able to collaborate. My phrase is collaboration for nonprofits is currency. And what I mean by that is that we can't do everything. And so we have to find ways to collaborate and advocate for the causes that are dear to our heart. So joining those boards and joining boards beyond your nonprofit, joining organizations beyond your nonprofit, getting to know your government, what are they doing, the federal government, what are they doing, what boards, what national organizations you need to be a part of, because there are national organizations out here that you need to be a part of to get your name out so that you can understand the niches and be able to connect it to other individuals who are doing similar things to what you're doing in different states.
Right. I love what you said about collaboration as currency, right? In the world of nonprofit, I think that there's no space for competition, right? We're all working towards the same thing. And when we align and share best practices and share tips and resources, we're all going to be stronger. And
we learn from each other. We have to learn from each other.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to connecting with Dawn and doing more to learn from her.
Right. And that's the beauty of making those connections, is even if you're working on separate things, you likely have shared resources that will support each other. And this idea of building something that's going to help improve the lives of others or an area of the world or something is monumental. Dawn, anything you'd add there in terms of successful ways to engage the community and to drive more involvement and awareness of your causes?
Well, since most of the physical things that we do happen on the ground in Africa, I do it in collaboration with multiple groups on the ground in Africa, because I feel like I can't do it all. I am not physically on the ground there. So I always work in collaboration. And I feel like when we come together, we're stronger, right? So never doubt what a group of committed citizens can do to change the world. It's the only thing that ever has. So everything I do is working in collaboration with people on the ground, whether it's here or in Africa or wherever it is.
Mm-hmm. Dawn, you put a word so we have a co-presenter chat that the live audience can't see. We can only see it here in the back end. You shared a word there. Can you explain? And you and I have talked about the words before, right? The words that that you took away from the language in Africa. Tell us about the word that you put in the chat here.
Well, I mentioned it earlier, and you guys were talking about it earlier. It's called Sawubona, and it means I see you, I value you, you are important to me. And I feel like all of that in one word is such a beautiful way of being, showing up, because everyone wants to feel seen and valued, and that they matter. So if we could just incorporate that into our daily lives and every interaction we have, I think the world would be so much better in all ways.
Oh, yeah. I put that word up as an announcement for the live audience, so you'll all be able to see the word spelling out, and now you know the meaning behind it. But what a powerful way to bring that whole feeling together, right?
Yeah, when I went to Rwanda several years ago, I saw the word Ubuntu for the first time, at least that it registered in my mind for the first time. And it means I am because we are. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, that is I've got goosebumps, and I have it tattooed on my ankle. I mean, I love that word so much, but even now when I talk about it, it's such a beautiful way of being in the world. And so I wanted to share some of these words because it's one word and it means so much. And it's so important that we understand that we're all connected and that we see each other and that we value each other.
Mm-hmm. Love that.
So as I see you, I value you.
I see you, I value you, you are important to me.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that with us. So back talking about partnership collaboration, do either of you have any examples of successful partnerships that have advanced your mission or advanced your cause?
Oh, you go ahead.
Well, I mean, I'm a part of a National Alliance to End Homelessness. During the pandemic, we formed an organization called Charge, which is healthcare and professionals and providers coming together because we were in a crisis. So I'm still a committed member of that. Just spoke to a group of nurses yesterday on that. Also, I'm a part of our Chicago Continuum of Care, which is a group of, I think, 173 providers. And while we all are doing similar or the same things, we come together in collaboration so that we are able to, as thought leaders, begin to feed off of each other and look at what each other's organizations are doing or even struggling with. Let us not forget to talk about there are struggles within the nonprofit. And so having that team or those collaborations or those partnerships around you are so valuable, where you have that tribe to say, can you help me? So those are some of the successful organizations that I'm still a part of and committed to and consistent with being on their meetings, going to the things that they have and opportunities to network. So networking is a big part of running a nonprofit.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Dawn, any examples you have to share?
Oh yeah, I have like the best one. So when you were talking about going to another country, but with a group, I did the opposite. I went by myself. I didn't know anybody, but I had connected with Witte Heart Foundation in Ghana before I went to Ghana. And so we had talked on social media about doing different programs. So we've been collaborating from day one, even before I got to Ghana. And they had told me that they usually do these health fairs, and they go into villages and they test kids' blood pressure, they test for malaria, they do things like that. And they hadn't done it for several years, but because I was coming, they were going to do it. So my organization, together with theirs, and I've partnered with them on 3 different boreholes in Ghana. They've helped me with my kids at Save Your Children's Foundation. So I love doing everything in partnership. Like when I write my books, I always write them in collaboration with other people because I love the partnership and the community and the collaboration of working together. So yeah, Witte Heart Foundation is my sister partner, and I love them so much.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing. So as we have about 10 minutes left. So for anyone that has questions, now's a great time to get those in so that we can prioritize your questions. But I want to talk about sustaining motivation, because there can be a lot of challenges with nonprofit work, right? And I feel like there's a lot that you see that might be sad or overwhelming, or sort of people going through hard things, or animals going through hard things, or you can't say yes all the time, right? You can't help everyone. How do you stay inspired and motivated to keep doing the work even if there's challenging things going on?
I'm just gonna say is that one of the first things that I learned after a health scare is that in order for me to run my nonprofit, I have to take care of me. So self-care is one of the first things, because if you're not feeling well or doing well, self-care, just breaking away as a thought leader, you need to sometimes break away and say, okay, what's next? Or ask that question, what did I miss in this? Why is this challenge continues to coming up? Why am I always challenged with this? And my example is that usually during a certain time of the year, our cash flow gets low. And about 5 to 10 years ago, I said, okay, what am I missing here? As an example, that our cash flow does not suffer these small months in the year. Well, I had to sort of break away and say, how do I correct this or fix this? So I think one of the things that I think I stay motivated is to make sure that I take care, and I always call myself in first person, Sanja. Okay, I need to take care of Sanja. And I think that what I have seen in the nonprofit here in the States is that we are always taking care of others, but we forget to take care of ourselves. And I think self-care keeps us motivated, energized. And self-care does not always mean that you have to go away on vacation or anything like that, but sometimes take a mental break, take a walk, walk in the morning, because Don can tell you it is challenging when you want to help everyone, but you can't. And so when you have your mindset right, it's a mindfulness thing. I always say it's a mindfulness that we have to be mindful of our mission and what our mission is. And then, as Don said, those partnerships. What I can't do? Maybe I can refer you over to a partnership. So one of the books that I'm writing is Harmony and Self-Care. I think the nonprofit forget that we are people too. And so while we see their humanity, and I'm going to say Sona Bona, as I think I got that right, we've got to see ourselves too. That would be my response.
Absolutely. So important. Don, what about you? How do you stay inspired and motivated despite challenge?
I want to tack on to what Sanja said. I think as women, sometimes, like not just in the nonprofit, but just as women, we don't do self-care, and we put ourselves on the second to everybody else. So I think that's a great reminder. I stay motivated because those children that I work with, they're my kids. Like there were times when I was raising my girls where I'm like, dang, this is hard, but I didn't throw my hands up and say, I can't do it. It's too hard. And I feel that way about them. I cannot let them down, because those are my kids and I love them.
Yeah. It's connected to the mission, right? Connected to the outcomes. And even though it's hard, we're going to keep going because we believe in it so much. But Sanja,
and the story is that the impact that you make when touching, as Don has said, when you're touching the life of that individual, the impact, say, and when they come back, what really keeps me motivated when they come back and say, thank you.
Oh, it's so rewarding.
Come back. For us, I'm still housed after 10 years. I had someone that came back when we were in our small building just recently, and it's been 26 years since we put him in housing. He came back last week and said, I just came back to say thank you.
Oh,
and that's that.
Right. Multiple times today have had goosebumps from this conversation, right? It's that feeling that it doesn't take much effort to change somebody's life, right? And to have an impact that could change their outcomes massively. And so it doesn't have to be going out and spending hours and hours and hours and starting a nonprofit. Find one small thing to attach to and start there, right? Just like with building up any new habit, don't overwhelm yourself, but find an opportunity where you can give an hour a month, or you can donate money or resource, right? And start there, because the impact you can have can really build up and be monumental. So as we wrap up here, are there any trends that you see emerging in the nonprofit sector And how do you think any trends will impact future work for nonprofits? I know we talked a little about AI and technology. So obviously I think that's a trend everywhere, but are there any other trends that you see sort of coming up in the near future in the nonprofit world?
Storytelling. Don does a good job. Storytelling. Nonprofits have got to begin to tell their story and to tell it more, and more. Tell of their successes. Tell of the challenges. Get to the heart of your donors. And so encourage those individuals that you have helped to come out, be a part of your storyteller. And I'm not sure Don can do this, but working with the live expertise, where individuals who have benefited from your service, invite them in to be a part of that volunteer or that storytelling line, so that they are your best advocates to be able to tell the story. I would not be here without Don's program. That's the trends that I'm seeing.
Love that. Don, anything else that you're seeing?
I've been really focused the last couple of years. I don't know if it's a trend or not, but instead of like focusing on getting donations, creating products to give back, so a portion of the proceeds go, so then I don't have to worry about, that $1. So I can like cover those transfer fees, and I can cover the website development, and I can cover all those things. So working on products that people will be like, oh, I get like this cute shirt and I'm supporting, a great cause. So I think that that's an amazing thing that we can look into to help our endeavors in nonprofit.
Yeah, love that. So as we wrap up here, I'm going to ask one final question, since we have a live audience and we get a lot of replay views on these episodes. What is one thing that our audience could do today, this week, to help you specifically with your causes? And ask for the IAW community, how can we all help support you?
Ooh, wow. Well, I'll throw out, I have, as I was just mentioning the product, I have a product line. If you go to thesecretsofbeing.com, there's a shopping tab. We have t-shirts, we've got pillows, we've got throws. One of my pillows is there. And 20% of all the purchase items, profits from the purchases, go to fund my work in Africa.
Amazing.
I would ditto that. You can go to our website, and we don't have products yet, but just listening to Don, we'll be getting some. But part of my proceeds for any book that I write goes right back to my nonprofit. 20% of it goes back to my nonprofit. So by just going to the website or just giving that $1 or that $20 that helps someone to get transportation in Chicago, that gives them 7 days worth of transportation. Just be willing to give.
Love that. We will get both of those links shared in the recap and follow up on this, and we'll get both of those shared through social as well with some fun highlights from this video today. But I want to say thank you to both of you. I love all the work you're doing, and I'm so grateful that you are here today to share your stories and help us drive more thought and more intentionality with how we can give back and how we can support communities. So thank you all. I hope you all have a wonderful day. We will be back here again in a couple of weeks with a new panel discussion. But in the meantime, please reach out if there's anything we can do to support you, and be sure to reach out and connect with our panelists today. Amazing women with so much great information to share. Sanja and Don, thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you.